Coming up, we have stories about when do you wish someone a happy birthday? Husband leaves children home alone. Mother-in-law barges in and doesn't knock. Wife runs into her ex and doesn't introduce hubby. Mother-in-law interactions. And do you apologize on your partner's behalf to your mom? These sound fun. We're going to have fun with these. The Dusties, if you don't know already, it's your first time hearing about this, is an award show that we put on. It's called an annual thing. This is the second annual one, and the first time happened more than a year ago because it's cursed, still cursed, but it is on YouTube exclusively. Highly recommend that you check it out, not during this live, but afterward. There's also a new episode of The Imperfect Storms, the brand new podcast there with Candy Thunder and myself in the home podcast studio talking about not Reddit stories, but life topics. So that is a really cool thing I strongly encourage you to check out as well if you like that part of our content, not just Reddit stories, but more of the exploring life and exploring family stuff and current hot topic stuff that, it's a wide array. Candy Thunder has already built up an army of topics for our next one, and you say we're filming this coming weekend? Is that right? Yeah, so we're getting ready to film another one already. Hey there, it is Dusty with another story for you. This one is, am I the astronaut for not saying happy birthday first thing in the morning? I, 38 male, woke up before my 35 female girlfriend, and when she walked out of the bedroom, she paused and said, "Morning." I was eating breakfast and replied, "Morning." A moment later, she got mad and threw a mini tantrum because she was the first person to say morning, and that I didn't tell her happy birthday right away. I was going to finish my cereal so I could give her a hug when I said happy birthday. She told me that her mom had texted her happy birthday at 6 a.m. while we were sleeping. She told me how rude it was and asked if I had forgotten. I told her I obviously didn't, considering the plans I was making for her right now, and she told me to just admit I had forgotten. Hold up, I want to point out some verbiage here that is red flag verbiage. Obviously not, considering the plans I was making for her right now. Well, you're just now making the plans? That means you forgot. If you had already made plans, that would be evidence that you had not forgot. But you're saying present tense, I am making them right now. I don't think that helps you here. Am I wrong to be pissed off? To me, this is the kind of thing a 15-year-old does, not a 35-year-old. I want to hit another round of red flags for that bullshit. That's not going to help you here either. What are you trying to do? What is your goal, OP? Is your goal to actually solve this problem, or are you only looking for validation in your assholery? Because it feels like you're just looking for validation in your assholery here, right? I'm at a definite YTA right now. It's not okay. Let's dive into some of the comments here. Comments. Candy Thunderous provided a comment for each category: NTA, ESH, and YTA. Let's see if you all enjoy this. NTA. Adults have to get over this "I'm so special, the world revolves around me today" attitude. You're not 5 years old anymore, for sake. ESH. It sounds like she's overreacting. On the other hand, it also sounds like you value your cereal over your girlfriend. Better been good cereal. When she comes out on her birthday, it takes a second to put down the spoon and stand up. Finish chewing your mouth full as you walk over to her so that by the time you're close enough to hug her, you can open it to wish her a happy birthday. I don't know where you came up with the strange idea that you have to completely finish your breakfast before greeting someone on their birthday. And here's the YTA comment. Tantrum is an emotionally loaded word. Describing an adult's behavior as a tantrum suggests that you have a certain amount of contempt for their behavior. It's what you say when you want to dismiss and invalidate somebody. It also doesn't really tell us anything. He could have described her actual actions, words, etc., but instead all we get to know is his own judgment, and we're supposed to accept that and take his word for it. With no other information to go on, I'm going to say YTA. And you know what? With no other information to go on, I'm right there with you. And I'm still at a 2. You definitely shouldn't have done that. But I think it's the fact that he is only looking for validation for his failure here, and also is just slinging more mud and calling her a child. You know what's the one thing that I really, really, really wish we knew for this? How long they've been together. They're in their mid-30s, but their boyfriend-girlfriend, how long have they been together? If this is the first birthday and you don't know your partner's preferences at that point, it's more understandable. Not completely understandable, but more so. If it's the second one, still. If they've been together for 10 years, you ought to know by now. Billy Joel said it. You ought to know by now. What do you say, Tater? Heat lamps on, let's get her up here. A fresh, right off date night, Tater. Come on, mama.
This just gave me the if they want to, they will vibes. And I guess when you care about somebody, and I do not agree with the adults shouldn't be celebrated. Adults shouldn't get a birthday. That, like, No, we were born on a certain day. Celebrate the out of the day you were born. Find the people that want to celebrate you, and you celebrate them right back. Not celebrating us because we get to a certain age is like, I don't understand that. I celebrate the shit out of my mom, and she's twice as old as me. So I don't. Same for my dad. Like, I do not understand adults shouldn't be celebrated bullshit. I don't care about my birthday. Like,
do we lose our value over time?
No.
Are we less special as we age?
Here's the thing. If you should know, if you're, like, she's staying at his house, she's expecting him to rise to the birthday level, which says that they're in a relationship, some kind of solid foundation. They've been together for some time. He should know by now what makes her feel loved. And on her birthday, he should want to do those things. And same for her. Like, she should want to make him feel the way that he feels loved on his birthday. And I don't think he did that. I don't know what, like, him like calling this a tantrum and saying that she acted like a 15-year-old just kind of seems shitty, when all he could have said was, I'm sorry, you're right, I should have said happy birthday. Like, and squash it and be done, apologize and move on.
Or I'm sorry, my brain's not awake yet.
Right.
Yeah, he could have made up for it. There was, Dragon Lady made an interesting comment there, said if she got angry that quickly, maybe he's forgotten important events before. And yeah, there could be some context there that makes it way worse.
Here's the thing. I've been in relationships where I know I wasn't valued, because when I got into a relationship with this man where he showed me exactly how much he valued me, I realized what I was missing in all my other relationships, and I don't have to question whether or not I'm going to get a happy birthday at 11:59. Like, I don't have to question that, because he will be right there every single time that it turns my birthday to tell me happy birthday. And if that's the relationship that this woman wants, then she's in the wrong relationship. And that doesn't mean that this man is a bad partner or bad man. It just means that, like, love languages aren't connecting.
Really valid point. And this just could be a mismatch, which is why the context of how long they've been together would be really, really helpful. But it could be that, like, she really values that and wants it to be a thing. And if he looks down on that, maybe they just aren't right for each other. It's possible.
Right.
I don't know.
So someone said 16 years of marriage, 5 babies, never a Mother's Day or birthday acknowledgement ever. My question would be why, and are you okay with that? If you're okay with that and that's not something that you put value on, then that's totally okay. But if you put value on that and you don't feel like that connection on those specific events with your partner, then I think you should speak up and be like, hey, let's do this more and let's show each other that we care. Because communicating and telling someone what you need is not a bad thing. And if someone makes you feel bad for communicating your feelings, that's a problem.
Texas Longhorns girl here says, just because I'm low maintenance does not mean I require the bare minimum.
So you do have you're divorced now. Well, you begged and pleaded and then turned into a bitch before I left. I understand. I understand how you progressed to that point. I totally get that.
Because if you don't speak up, what happens? Resentment builds.
Yeah.
If you do speak up and they don't act on it, what happens? Resentment builds, and then all of a sudden you're passionate and you're caring and you're angry and you turn into a bitch, and then you become indifferent and you leave, right? So if you're not getting something that you need, not speaking up has maybe even more consequences than speaking up does. And speaking up at least gives the opportunity for that thing to get fixed.
In this moment, she did speak up, and I don't think. Unless she throws it, and I think if she was throwing a tantrum over every single thing, the way that this is written, he would have let us know.
That's true.
But if she spoke up because she boiled over, which means, and again, I'm speculating here, but to me it seems like it's happened before, or he wasn't, I don't know. He didn't show up in a way that she needed, and she boiled over, and he called it a tantrum instead of fixing it. So,
which at bare minimum, I think gives him this. It gives him the brozo.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what his views are on birthdays, because it's not his birthday.
That's exactly my point. It matters the person that is being celebrated, and if you love that person and you cherish that person and you want to be with that person, then celebrate them on the level that they want to be celebrated on. And I'm not saying someone who's being asinine and going over the top, but asking someone to tell you happy birthday when you walk out of the bedroom
feel attacked.
is I don't think that's insane over-the-top behavior. I think that's a normal thing.
Now, there are over-the-top expectations can also
sure.
be dangerous, right?
100%.
It's Jess from New Girl, where she's like, you got me a
going
sweater.
to China?
It's made in China? Are you taking me to China? Oh my God. Yeah. And over-the-top expectations can be dangerous as well. But here, this was a simple thing. And instead of, like, Brozo put much more effort into this Reddit post than he did into wishing her a happy birthday.
He also deleted his post and deleted his account.
Oof.
So, I'm going to celebrate the shit out of people because I feel like people deserve to be celebrated. And Yeah, the shit out of people. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. Love you, Tater. Mwah. Hey there, it's Dusty with yet another story for you. This one is my husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone and refuses to explain why. My husband left our children alone and he refuses to admit to it or tell me where he was. Okay. Well, you know what? That's red flag worthy. I'm furious, enraged, and my husband keeps telling me I'm making a big deal about nothing. This just happened this weekend. I'm on the board of directors for a local nonprofit organization. I had to attend an event for that organization this past Saturday, and I was gone for most of the day. My husband was supposed to be home with our kids. I texted him a few times, and he responded. When I called around midday, he didn't respond, but that's not very unusual. Shortly after that, I got a call from my mom. She said my son had just called her, and when she asked him what he and his sister were doing, he said they were both watching TV. When she asked where their dad was, he said his dad wasn't there. My mom asked him several other questions, and from my son's responses, she believed he was telling the truth and that my husband was not there and that there was no adult there at all. She said he didn't seem scared to be alone or worried about where his dad was at. He just called her to chat. He has a tablet designated for children, or he has a tablet designed for children with pre-programmed contacts that he can call. It's only a few people, just family members. I left the event immediately and began texting and calling my husband repeatedly. He didn't respond to my first several attempts. It took him about 10 minutes. I was halfway home at that point to respond. I was so confused, so worried, really mad, and I asked him where he was. He said he was at home. I told him our son had just told his grandmother that he was home alone with his baby sister watching TV about 15 minutes ago. My husband denied it, and I told him I was too upset to talk and drive. When I got home, I checked on the kids right away, and they were both fine. I asked my husband again, where was he? He said he was at home the entire time. He doesn't know what our son was talking about, but he must have just been confused since he had gone to the basement to do some laundry. I ran down to the basement. It was the same load of laundry I'd thrown in the dryer the night before. Oh. For a second, I was like, you know what? It's possible that he was there in the basement or something, and the kid was like, yeah, I haven't seen him. And maybe he hadn't seen him in 15 minutes, but that's not the end of the world. There's also a possibility that this 9-year-old is responsible enough to stay home and take care of his 5-year-old sibling. Oh, 5 years and 9 months. Oh. The oldest kid is 5. Okay, I was thinking it was a 5 and 9-year-old. I read the words, but it didn't sink in up here. No, much worse now. Much worse. I was like, oh, a 9-year-old could take care of a 5-year-old kid if they're responsible enough, but lying about it ain't okay. But no, a 9-month-old? Nope, okay. Nope. You wouldn't leave. Oh, I'm sorry. Now I'm just lost. He didn't do any laundry while I was gone. I asked my husband why my son would be confused about whether his dad was home or not. Where in our home would he have gone, and for how long for our son to think his dad was not home? That doesn't make sense with a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. You wouldn't leave them unattended for that long. Why was he nowhere to be found when my mom asked my son to go check certain areas of the house? I begged my husband to just admit it, to stop treating me like an idiot and to stop accusing our son of lying. Just tell me the truth, because being lied to right to my face is incredibly maddening. He insists he was home, but he can't come up with any believable story of where he was at or what he was doing during that time. The way he answers me when I ask him about this and demand truthful answers is so dismissive. When I tell him, you left our children alone, he quickly says, no, I didn't. So anyway, he says I'm overreacting and let our son's imagination drive me crazy. I'm convinced he was gone. We don't have a Ring camera, but at least one of our neighbors does. I'm so upset about this that I'm tempted to ask our neighbor for the Ring footage.
Do it.
Yeah, exactly. Do it. I had to go out to my car and scream and cry because I got so upset. Of course, I didn't want my kids to see my reaction. I can't put into words how upset I am about the fact that I know he must have really left them alone but have no proof and am being treated like I'm just paranoid and a nutcase of a mother and woman by him. Ooh, there's an update. Before we get into the updates, everybody in chat's like, do it. Do it.
Do you think he's cheating?
Do I think he's cheating? I mean, that's jumping to, worst case scenario. I guess there's worse, but that's pretty stinking bad. But it's got to be something bad enough for him to be either ashamed of or wanting really badly to hide. Whatever it is, he doesn't want her to know what it is. But whatever it is also bad enough to leave the kids, a 5-year-old and 9-month-old, alone and lie about it. It's pretty bad. Yeah, and then gaslight the holy hooey out of her. Or maybe he was hiding out in the barn. But either way, he was doing something he shouldn't have done, and he lied about it because the whole laundry thing was a bust. She myth busted him on that one. So it's stacking lies now. I don't think, Truth will out. Truth will out. Okay, let's dive into the update. Last weekend, my husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone while I was gone and then refused to admit it or provide a plausible explanation. Since then, we've had many arguments about it. I've been living in a constant state of anger and frustration. I don't want to fight about it anymore, but I couldn't help it, and I kept bringing it up again and again. I couldn't lay low and pretend to get over it while I waited for him to do it again and catch him in whatever was going on. I also knew that demanding he tell me the truth wasn't going to get me anywhere, since he had been refusing to talk and deflecting for days. All it was doing was making me enraged and feel like I was about to have a brain aneurysm. I told him to hand me his phone so I could check his location at the time. He refused. Why? If you got nothing to hide, why are you so determined to hide shit? He said he wouldn't do it and that it was a violation of his privacy. He won't be treated that way and refuses to give in to my delusions. You think I enjoy being in a situation where I have to beg my husband to show me his phone so I can see where he was at? I hate it. I don't want to live that way. I told him it's simple. If he really was at home the entire time, just prove it. Why wouldn't he want to clear this whole thing up? I got so mad that he wouldn't turn over his phone that I told him I was going to the neighbors to get their doorbell footage. At first he was like, fine, go do it. He didn't think I actually would. He knows I don't like to air drama to others, so probably figured I'd just swallow all of this crap he's been giving me. Luckily, I was totally driven by anger at this point, so nothing was going to stop me from going to the neighbors. When I actually started to get out the door, he tried to stop me and followed me out the door. I felt pure anger rushing through my veins, nothing else. The neighbor, who I've probably said less than 10 words to in the entire time we lived together, told me he'd send me the footage. I went home, told my husband that the neighbor didn't have the footage from that day anymore, and I told him I just needed to go to the store and cool off. So I put the kids in the car and went and parked somewhere while I waited for the neighbor to send me the footage. I have the neighbor's number now too, and he told me if I need any more footage, he'll be happy to give it to me. Hey, W neighbor here. W neighbor's like, we don't really know each other. I got you, girl. The video shows a blue car I don't recognize show up and park in our driveway. A blonde woman gets out of the car and goes toward my house. She walks on the outside of our garage toward the gate leading to our backyard. The gate is too far back and out of the way to be seen on the doorbell footage. She and her car were there for 23 minutes. Imagine that. The car leaves right around the time that my husband called me to say he was home and had been home the entire time, as I was rushing home in a panic and calling him on repeat. One of the two possibilities as to where they went, she either came in through the side door of the house, which does provide direct access to the basement, or, and what is more likely, is that they were in the back most area of our yard, which is a gated pool area. Immediately behind our house is a grass lawn, then you step down a few steps and we have a patio, and then there's a fully gated area where the pool is. It's not like you think of when you picture a gated pool. It's a full 6-foot wood fence all the way around, plus even taller landscaping for added privacy. You can't see into that area at all unless you're inside. I think it's more likely that they were back there because my son said his dad's keys were gone, and we kept that gate locked with a key. The pool is closed for winter, but there is one small building back there, sort of like a shed we converted into a changing area, and there's a covered patio with furniture. I'm convinced that's where they were. So technically, he was home, but in a totally different area removed from the house and where he couldn't see or hear the kids if something happened. I asked him how he could explain this. What were they doing? I obviously don't need him to tell me what they were doing, but for some reason I still had hope that he'd finally be honest. He wasn't contrite. He showed no remorse. He was just like, yeah, she was here, but I obviously never left. All right.
Asshole.
You're like, well, on a technicality. Who is she? How long had this been going on? And if he's going to be such a disgusting, despicable excuse of a man, then why couldn't he at least have found any other time and any other lie or excuse other than he was home alone with our kids? I told him I know this has happened before, and I demanded to know how many times he's done this and when he's been home alone with the kids. He swears this is the only time, but he still doesn't have the balls to confess to what they were doing. I don't believe him that this was the only time, FYI. Well, no shit. Why would he start being honest now? I still have so many questions, and I still feel my heart is beating 200 times a minute. My blood pressure is going through the roof. I've cried a lot, sobbed, begged for somebody to help me, yelled, screamed, ordered a bunch of books about divorce and custody, and you know what? The next day, after our multiple explosive fights, him putting his hands on me, and me seeing the evidence, he acted like everything was totally normal and like none of that stuff ever happened.
And he called her delusional.
Put hands on you? I woke up still seething, exhausted, broken, and he's acting like everything is totally normal. Well, yeah. That's what you do when you're gaslighting somebody. You try to brush it under the rug. I mean, that's like step 3 of this process, right? But he's trying to convince you that you're crazy. Now you have some evidence that somebody was here and he's busted partially, but he's like, I never left. Didn't lie about it. And then he's like, just going on a merry way because I didn't do anything wrong. He said he was ordering breakfast to be delivered from our favorite breakfast place. He asked if I wanted to go to the store together later and try this new recipe for chili tonight. What? Why would I want to do any of these things with you now? Absolutely no acknowledgement of anything he's done or what's transpired between us in the past few days. He deserved an Oscar for how well he was able to act like none of that happened, completely comfortable and non-fazed. I know it's a waste of my energy, but I desperately want him to admit the full truth of what he did that day and any other day with this woman. I want to hear it from him. It won't change whatever he's done, but he could at least have the respect and decency to be honest now that he's been caught. That's a ridiculous thought though, right? How foolish of me to expect this man to show decency and honesty now. If he was a decent and honest man, then he wouldn't have had a strange woman over to our house and been out of sight from our kids for 23 minutes. His continued denial and refusal to admit to anything other than the bare minimum, his attitude like I'm somehow being controlling or infringing on his rights by asking for information, that's almost more hurtful than him cheating on me. Almost. That shows, that's the end of the story, by the way, that just shows the complete disregard he has for you, for your relationship, for you as a human being, for you as the mother of your children. No regard, no respect. You are filling a role in his vision, his world, and he needs you to just shut the up and to just do your job. And now he's trying to get some brownie points by like, oh yeah, I'm getting your favorite breakfast. You want to go do these things that you like doing, try to butter you up a little bit, but being so nonchalant about it. And you're right, like his ability to act this out in such a cold and calculated way is only more concerning. It is only more red flags. It is only more of a sign that this goes much deeper than you ever feared it does. What in the actual figgity He knew what he was doing. Tater, what do you think? Come on. Fresh piping hot tater. I know you got some thoughts on this shit.
I don't want your chili. I just want a divorce. Would have been my response to this asshole. But right now I'm going to read Angel's Super, which says, he is a brozo Ascon 1 and sucks indefinitely. And also, what kind of woman settles for being the side piece that gets screwed in the pool shed? Seriously. If this is your life, you do better.
Like, the ability to act like he's acting now is concerning, and having the children in his care with this detachment is extremely concerning.
His refusal to admit that he has done anything wrong is almost like him trying to protect himself, because there's like all these cracks happening in these multiple versions of reality that he's created for himself, where he gets to screw some woman outside, gross, while his wife's at work, and your 9-month-old baby and 5-year-old child are inside while you're outside cheating on your wife. Like, that is all I need to hear to know that you're a piece of shit. To know that you don't deserve this woman, you don't deserve your children, you deserve the worst because of what you did to this woman when the cracks started happening in the life that you've created. And it's only going to get worse. The more cracks show up, the worse he is going to treat this woman. And if you don't need him to admit what you already know. And what you already know is that he left your children alone. A woman showed up, was there for 20 minutes, and then left. You already know what happened. You don't need him to admit it, and getting him to admit this is only going to end in trauma for you and your kids. Get the out and stop. You don't need closure from this animal. You need actual help, and save your kids and get the away from him. If he put hands on you, you're done. You don't get a second chance. There's only escalation.
And
further wanting that admission of guilt is going to drive him to do more things. And you do not need that. You know the truth. Get out.
But the fact that he's already put hands on you should be, hopefully, enough to mitigate the risk and the fear of having to have the kids in his care anyway. And the fact that he left them alone, whether it was, didn't leave the premises, doesn't matter. He left the house and he blatantly lied about it.
Him going back to this normal version of himself, whatever that is more scary to me than him being unhinged, because this is a worse version of unhinged for me, because he's unwilling to face reality. And when he finally does, it's not going to be pretty.
And his tactics right now are cold and calculated.
Yeah.
And if he put his hands on you day one, and now day two is acting like nothing ever happened, he's acting like nothing ever happened because he's planning what's next.
Get out. Please.
If not for you, for your kids. Get out, create distance, get some documentation, file a police report, do the things you need to do. Also,
the amount of people in chat that said this was my ex.
Gosh.
What the people? Be better, do better. You get one life, and this ain't it. This is not how you treat other human beings. This is not how you treat anything on this planet. This is just utter disgust, in my opinion. And that's all I got.
That's sad. That's just sad. Tater Thunder, everybody. Thanks for coming up, giving your 2 cents. They're always worth $1 million. Did he get a brozo already? I don't think he did. I think that was a guy before. Yeah, he's getting all of it here. He gets the brozo. He gets the DFHB thumbs down. He gets the, you know what? He gets this. Black hole, baby. Black hole. If he had admitted to it and started working on a solution path here, it'd still be at ASCON 1, but wouldn't be into black hole status. He's at black hole because he's just running it into the ground and shows no signs of letting up on it at all. Somebody's breaking into your house and touching your baby. What? Hey, it's Dusty with yet another story for you. This one is actually from the Dusty Thunder subreddit. Yeah, that's a thing. You can post stories there. You can read stories there. You can comment there. And there's a decent chance you'll see a lot of them here. Title of this one is, Am I the Astronaut for Exposing Myself to My Mother-in-Law? The truth of the matter is that I don't actually care if anybody thinks I'm an ass for what I did, because it accomplished exactly what I wanted. Doesn't sound like an accident now. I, 35 female, have a very nosy mother-in-law. Okay, 35 female completely changes my image of what was happening here too. The helicopter is no longer an option, as far as I know. I, 35 female, have a very nosy mother-in-law who thinks she can walk into my house any time of day or night. Shortly after moving into our house, my mother-in-law rented the house next door and liked to sneak into our house late in the evening or in the middle of the night to hold our newborn. She doesn't knock or ask, and now I have a baby who has her nights and days all mixed up, and I'm up all hours of the night with the baby whenever my mother-in-law decides to stay home. I get that she thinks she's doing us a favor by taking the night shift with the baby, but she'll actually wake up the baby to hold her. Okay, bish. Also, somebody's breaking into your house and touching your baby. What? No. So I was sitting on the couch bemoaning the fact one evening to my husband that his mother needed to learn boundaries. I joked around that it would be hilarious if she one day came in unannounced and walked in on us making out or something even worse. Right then I heard footsteps outside the house and said, "Just watch, that's probably her right now." My hubby says to me, "Quick, take off your shirt." I comply. He whips off his own shirt, throws a big blanket around us so that it covers our parts, and wraps his arms around me in an embrace. When the front door pops open, we both shriek and pull the blanket up to cover ourselves. Her face was priceless. It took her a few moments for her brain to register what she was seeing. Then she whirled around, slammed the door shut behind her, and practically ran down the sidewalk next to her house. Since that day, she always calls first to make sure it's safe to come over. Also, that's it. That's the end of the story. There's no.
She just.
Yeah. She understood the assignment after that point. And thank goodness, because this lady busting in using her key. At some point, they'd end up having to take the key away, and then all of a sudden, the 13 copies that she had made would start popping up. And this would become a much bigger thing, like a terrible, terrible thing. But because of some quick thinking on the part of OP and OP's partner, not to mention the impromptu willingness to be like, bet, let's do it now. Now, take off your shirt. She's like, I thought you'd never ask. They had everything they needed ready. Big blanket. Man, that's awesome. That is awesome. Also, this. You get the petty thunder for that. You get the petty thunder. And obviously, what you guys did, could have been so much more scarring for her. And I kind of wish it had been. You know what I mean? I kind of, you really want to get the message home. Give her an image she'll never forget.
No.
What do you mean, no? What do you mean, no? I'm like, and the helicopter's back. Never forget it. Would you be comfortable with your partner going to coffee with an ex after they admitted being attracted to them? Hey there, I'm Dusty Thunder with a really good story for you. This one's from Relationship Advice and is titled Wife, Female 28, and I'm Male 27, ran into her ex at the mall and it sent me for a loop. Hi all, never done anything like this before. New account because I don't know where this is going, if it's even going anywhere. My wife and friends know my Reddit username. Maybe I'm overthinking, maybe not. But something about this past weekend is just sitting weird with me and I don't know if I should trust my gut or if I'm just getting in my own head. So for some context, my wife, Carla, and I have been together for 4 years, married for 5 months. We have a solid relationship, no real trust issues or anything like that. She's an amazing person. I love her endlessly. Something about her that's important to this situation is that she's always been one of those people who holds grudges forever. Like she's still mad about a girl stealing her seat in 9th grade. If you cross her, she holds it against you forever. I think that's what makes this whole thing feel off. We were out shopping on Saturday at a mall about an hour from home. At this point, the day was winding down and we were grabbing a bite to eat in the food court. And that's when we ran into Chris. Now, Chris is the ex. She was with him from 16 to 24. He's the only ex she ever really talks about, and every time she has, it's been something negative. They fought a lot. They had a messy breakup. They were toxic. They cheated on each other, the whole 9 yards. We lived in the same city as him for our whole relationship, and other than a brief blip while dating, we've never once bumped into him, but we run into him an hour away from home on a random day at the mall, and her reaction just sent me for a loop. I was mid-sentence when I saw her eyes just lock onto something behind me, and immediately she lights up. Big smile. Before I even turn to see who it is, she's already standing up to greet him, just beaming. They hug, and not just some quick oh hey hug, like it felt like it was an so amazing to finally see you again hug. That's a red flag. And then suddenly, I'm just standing there, completely shut out of the conversation while they start catching up. I didn't even know who he was. I haven't seen him in years and had to piece it together as they chatted. I thought she would introduce me, but nope. I'm just standing there while she's laughing, fully engaged with him, even some physical touching. At one point, she shoved his arm playfully. I'm not a jealous person, and I honestly have zero problem with her being friends with whomever she chooses, but my impression of her relationship with him was different than what I was seeing. I figured I was overreacting or reading too much into it, but I still felt a bit weird, like a third wheel if I'm being honest, so I just tried to hint that it was time to go by picking up our trays and making it clear I was ready. Neither of them noticed. So I walked off, tossed the trays, came back, still talking. Why'd you come back? That's when you leave, and then when she sees that you're gone, she'd be like, oh shit, I f***ed up. Well, no, you came back and just stood there and watched your relationship implode? Still talking. They finally wrap it up after a few more minutes and they hugged again and then he was off. And then without a single word about it, she just looks at me and goes, okay, let's stop at Lululemon and Indigo before we head out. Like nothing happened. Also, that means she heard you the first time. She chose not to acknowledge you. I kept waiting for her to bring him up, say something about how weird it was, or at least acknowledge him or their conversation in some way, but she just acted like it was nothing. We shopped for another 45 minutes like nothing happened. Once we got in the car, I waited to see if she'd bring it up. She did not. Small talk died off after a few minutes after we got on the highway, and she was just glued to her phone. So I asked who she's texting. She says the group chat. That's her 3 best friends, Cheyenne, Darcy, and Julia. I said, what's the topic of conversation? She smiled and said, I'm telling them how crazy it is that I ran into Chris. I just say, yeah, that was pretty wild. She agrees and says, insane. What are the chances? And then she just kept texting. I kind of expected that to kick off our conversation about it, but it did not. Then, that night at home, after she'd been on her phone the majority of the night with the girls still chatting about it, I decided to bring it up. I told her I felt like a bit of a third wheel when Chris showed up since she didn't introduce me. Felt like I wasn't even there because she didn't introduce me. She lightheartedly said, oh, he knows who you are. Then gave me a quick peck on the cheek. I'm sorry, does that make this okay? Now, I didn't exactly handle this great. I brought it up in a very lighthearted and non-serious tone. That's how I deal with conflict, so it's 100% on me for not communicating where my head was, and I can't fault her for being so nonchalant about it. That worries me for you. I left it there for the night and thought I'd take another stab at it in the next day, so once I'd had some time to process. But it's been days, and I just feel really confused about this whole thing. I'm really struggling to process how I'm feeling about it all, and judging if I even have the right to feel upset. Never run into an ex before, so this is new territory. So I'm making my first Reddit post, honestly not even sure this is the best sub for this. I think this is where this belongs, or if you think this belongs elsewhere, let me know. There's an update before we get into that. Thoughts? Brittany, yeah. He knows who I am, excuse me. This is why learning to communicate your feelings is a BFD. And guess what? They're in year 1 of marriage. And year 1 of marriage is tough. That's when you really learn trial by fire. If you haven't learned by trial by fire, by that point, you're kind of forced through it year 1. You're forced to go through a lot of awkward situations and really discover some things about your partner and yourself that you might not have known before. And I can tell you for a fact, as a dude, we're much less in touch with our feelings. I'd say most of us are much less in touch with our feelings. And learning, it's so hard to communicate because we don't understand them. And this is probably true for most people, like being in touch with your feelings enough to be able to communicate them to another human being, especially your partner, requires a level of self-awareness and self-reflection that is not just hardwired into people, or most people. It's something that I had to learn at the ripe age of 42. Sorry, took a long time. Being able to communicate with your partner and be like, hey, when this happened, I felt this, and I thought maybe it was just a me thing, so I've just been waiting and hoping that, you'd say something else that would put that feeling to bed for me. But it's only intensified, and I only have more problem with it now. So please, can we discuss this and get to the bottom of it, because I don't want to feel this way. Being able to have that conversation requires first knowing what you're feeling enough to put it into words. It's that bridge right there, like recognizing it in a way that allows you to communicate it is really, really difficult. Update. Hi again, everyone. Wasn't sure if I should make a whole new post or edit to add here, but considering how many people commented update me, I think posting a brief update here makes the most sense. Carla and I sat down and had a long talk. She was experiencing emotions similar to mine throughout the week. How can that be, you might ask? After sitting down and using a lot of the top comments here as a guideline to get my feelings out, namely the feeling of being lost and confused, we were able to get a dialogue going and figure out my/our feelings. The biggest realization I had while replying to comments and what was fully realized when Carla and I talked was that I had felt abandoned and disconnected from her for the first time in our relationship. We have a little phrase we say, book page, to signify that our minds, emotions, and hearts are on the same page. We say it a lot because that's just how we feel. When Chris and Carla split at the mall and she just didn't acknowledge it or give any indication that she was ready to sync up our emotions and experiences from that encounter, that's what really threw me for a loop and had me spiraling for days. She knew it was a mistake on her part and had every intention of talking to me and getting back on the same page. She was actually the one to initiate our talk when she got home yesterday. I was planning to wait until after, a bit later after eating, but she kicked it off almost immediately. She was and is incredibly sorry for how I was feeling. She didn't realize it was as severe as it was, which is why she had put off talking until she had figured out her own feelings. I can already predict the comments rolling in saying we're both bad communicators and we both did the same unhealthy thing of bottling up our feelings instead of just talking to our spouse. If that was the norm, I would completely agree with you. This is the first time I've ever experienced this feeling, as I've said, and it's the first time Carla has done this as well. This was an outlier, not the normal rhythm of our relationship. As soon as we were able to talk about our thoughts, those feelings of disconnection went away, and it immediately felt like a 1,000,000-pound weight had been lifted off of my heart. When we started to compare our experiences and what happened, our thoughts and feelings, we went over a lot, so I'm just going to throw things out in point form because the conversation jumped around a lot. Carla feels a fun throwback type of excitement when talking with Chris and reminiscing about high school and old times. He added her on Instagram that night after they ran into each other at the mall. She added him back and they started DMing. And it took you days to find out about this?
That's not a good sign.
No, that's not a good sign. He had broached the idea of meeting up for coffee to catch up when they were talking at the mall. She said she might be open to it, but didn't commit at that point. You're just finding this out after a few days? She talked to the girls in the group chat because they were all there during the Chris era and had talked in the past about what meeting up with him again would be like. I told her I tried to check her phone to ease my anxiety, and she said she was sorry the password had changed. Boy, it just keeps getting better and better and better. Yeah, it seems like you guys are really on the same page now, bro. She changed it due to a misunderstanding with an instruction from her new work's mail app. Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that?
Totally believe it, man. She changed her phone passcode from my birth year, her birth year, our meeting year, to our meeting year, my birth year, her birth year. Just a reorganization. She had changed it around November or December, and I just hadn't had a need to touch her phone to try to get in. She handed me her phone and let me enter the new code to show me she was being honest. Here, I've had plenty of time to hide the shit I need to hide. The girls' group chat was full of girl talk. There are a couple of people that reached out to me via DM that I've already shared details with, and a few of them say this girls' chat was extremely inappropriate and not okay, while others said it resembled what their girls' chat would look like under the same circumstances and with all the same history and context. Carla does still have some lingering feelings for Chris. It's not something that she feels detracts or impacts her feelings for me at all. She was brutally honest and said it's more of a physical lust attraction, not feelings of love. Okay, I would have a problem with this. Wait. So there's more points here. So you're potentially going to meet up for coffee with this guy. You've been Insta DMing with him, and I'm just finding out about all this shit right now, and you're lusty with him? And it sounds like leading into the presentation of these notes from their discussion, OP's totally okay. Same book, same page, man. We're like this. We're like this. I mean, he's like this, but we're like this. Carla has a very dominant and assertive personality type, and so does Chris. They never worked out as a couple for that reason, but they connected physically really well. You don't say. Our relationship works the opposite way, and she knows that I'm the puzzle piece for her heart and soul, and that no matter anything else, she wants to spend her life with me, and I feel the same way about her. Well, thank goodness you're the puzzle piece for her heart and soul, because he's the puzzle piece for her vajayjay. A lot of the girls' group chat dove into some details about my and Carla's sex life as well as her history with Chris. I learned some things in the chat that Carla had hinted at before to me in conversations or while being intimate that made a lot more sense. I can provide some additional details if people want, but I don't think that's really the point here. Carla said she wanted to meet up with Chris for coffee. She messaged him with me at the end of our talk, and they confirmed for today. It's 1:22 p.m. They met up for coffee at 11 a.m. Checked in with her, and she said it's going really well. They've been there for 2.5 hours, and it's going really well? They're definitely not just having coffee. At minimum, he ordered the scones, and she ordered the sausage roll. Would you be comfortable with your partner going to coffee with an ex after they admitted being attracted to them? No. Would you?
No. Candy doesn't share.
Dusty doesn't share. Dusty doesn't share his candy. No. I would not be okay with it. I'm sorry. I don't believe that jealousy is a fruitful use of energy. And I believe that if someone wants to be with you, they'll be with you. And if they don't want to be with you, they won't be with you. And their actions will prove it either way. This is an action proving that my partner would not want to be with me. They'd be proving that to me. I don't need to be jealous. I need to confront them and let them know that this is not okay. And not only am I saying you shouldn't go for the sanctity of our relationship, I'm saying the fact that you want to go means that our relationship is over. Congratulations. Be lusty with Chris. Relive the glory days. Puzzle piece out. Okay, there's a little bit more. I'm sure there's questions that have come up that I haven't answered. These details are the ones that come to the top of my head when I sit and think about our talk and where we're at. Of the dozen or so people that reached out, and I've already updated on this, a couple people don't think I should bother updating because of where this ended up. I figured I owed it to everybody that seemed so interested in if we'd had our talk and how it went. Dude, that's the end of the story. He doubled down hard in comments about what? About being okay with where they're at? Same book, same page. They're same bed. And you're okay with that, apparently? No, he's in denial. I firmly believe that OP is in denial right now. That's denial. That is just, there's nothing else. Like, that's denial. And she has a strong, assertive personality and knows that he's the color code white in their relationship. She's bullying him into being okay with it. She's like, no, I'm gonna go do this. If anything, it's gonna make us stronger because I'll be like there and I won't act on it. And then it'll just like strengthen that side of us. But I lust for him. I don't really do that for you. Here's Tater Thunder, ladies and gentlemen. She's got something. What you got?
I just have to ask if she's going to meet him at his pool house or like just in the backyard on the lawn furniture. Like, because this feels like the same type of situation, right? Like the guy from that story could be Chris and she could be the blonde walking up the driveway to the backyard.
You're right.
Dude, it's right in front of your face. Just pick up the book and read it and you'll see what's going on. If your partner tells you that they're lusting for someone else, you do not go have coffee with the person that you're lusting for. I don't know. Do you think the lust, if you allow yourself to lust for someone else, do you think the lust would fade?
If she presents herself in a situation where she could actually act on that lust?
No. If you put it to bed, you don't talk to the person, you don't see the person, does the lust fade? Does it, or will she always wonder, what if?
I can't say because I don't have the experience to be able to say.
I don't either.
I would imagine if you felt yourself like feel that thing, yeah, if you were committed to your relationship, you would immediately at least dismiss that or, not at minimum, not act on it. And gaslight your partner into believing that it's okay.
It's just coffee. This is not just coffee. You don't go to coffee with someone that you're lusting after if you're not in an open relationship with your husband. And from the sounds of it, they are not in an open relationship. And you definitely don't go to coffee for 2.5 hours. For someone that I'm attracted to physically, you walk away from that person if you value your marriage. And I think she let him know that she does not value their marriage. She values having coffee with someone that I guess this seems like it was a high school relationship and a post-high school relationship based on the timeline. Yeah. I don't know.
6-ish years worth. So
we're anxiously awaiting your update.
Yep. Thanks, Tater. I just, at minimum here, OP, I think creating a boundary and being like, hey, if you do this, this is going to be the inevitability. At least creating some kind of boundary. It doesn't even have to be a hard-ass one, but at least to say that there will be a cost to crossing this line because I am not comfortable with it and it shows disrespect to our relationship at minimum. It's not okay. Ruh-roh.
Yeah. No. Just more of a conversation because I think like not being in a relationship and lusting after someone, like totally fine, but like being attracted to someone like intellectually, physically, like all of those things is much different from that lust feeling. So in my experience, the lust feeling always fades once you and that person, whatever that looks like.
That makes sense.
And I'm not like talking just I mean, once you get to know that person, you may not like that person. The physical attraction fades. And so I guess, are you willing to risk your entire relationship because you think someone's attractive physically? Because you feel this connection to them physically? And I think that's what people need to ask themselves about cheating. Not that they would, but if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. But I think the lust will fade and you're left with the same relationship with your husband. Now you've tainted it.
Yeah, you damaged it.
Yep.
In his case, like he's willing to take some dings in the very thin armor that he's got on. I think it's a veil of denial. I think it's just denial, and eventually he's going to end up resenting her enough for this that he's going to. It's going to blow up. This will blow up. Hey, it's Dusty with yet another story for you. This one is actually from the Dusty Thunder subreddit as well, and is titled, I'm bothered by the way my mother-in-law interacts with my boyfriend. If it's a boyfriend, is it mother-in-law? Because there's no law. To anyone here whose only comment is that she's not my mother-in-law, yes, I know that. I ask that you kindly refrain from commenting that if you don't have any advice to offer with it. Have a lovely weekend. I know. I think it's hilarious. And I hope that's a setup. I hope that's an intentional setup in here to suck us in, because this person could absolutely embody the whole mother-in-law like stereotype, in which case I would have said mother-in-law too. But would have also been like, you'll get it. Just wait. You'll see. My mother-in-law is weird with my boyfriend and he doesn't see the issue. My mother-in-law is staying with us for a week and I admit I wasn't thrilled about it, but I was open to it. He hasn't seen her in a few years. I've met her once, so I welcomed the opportunity to get to know her better. I've always thought she was odd with him. He's 25 and fully independent from her, and she refers to him as her blue-eyed wonder boy. I think that's odd, personally. If my mom, when we were just dating, called me her blue-eyed wonder boy, I'm assuming
it's weird.
I'm assuming it would be weird to you too. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you saw that the same way that I did. I'm gonna go on ahead and throw in red flags there. And already OP, I'm like, yeah, I'd call her a mother-in-law at this point too. She's been here 24 hours and she went on a rant about how handsome he is, how he has perfect eyes, perfect nose, perfect ears even. She went as far as to say that he has a nice body and said he could be a model. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The thing that's odd too is that she's nice to me, but she doesn't treat me shitty like some of the other mother-in-laws in these posts. But maybe I'm naive. I tend to miss when people aren't being genuine. Yeah, the body comment, look, we think our kids are beautiful. And we'll tell them that they're beautiful.
I don't comment on my children.
Which leads to my next thing. I was chatting with her and I mentioned how a few weeks ago we went snowmobiling and that he scared me because he was going really fast with me on the back and that I didn't feel safe. And then when I talked to him about it, he blew me off. She acted super supportive and kind, said she was disappointed in him, and said he shouldn't do that. She'd been scared on the back with him too. She also implied that he's pretty rowdy on a sled and doesn't make great decisions. I found out later that she talked to him, and she said that she never felt scared and that she always trusted him, and he took out of that I should suck it up and trust him more. I felt pretty betrayed and thought that was pretty two-faced of her. Oh, okay. So now she's painting one face in front of you and then behind your back being like, no, Johnny, it was never too thrilling for me. You could never do anything that turned me off. I'm not sure why I'm posting. Maybe some insight on if this is weird or if I'm making a big deal out of it. Also, how to deal with this because I got 8 more days of this, LOL. I'm editing to add some more things I remembered that happened. She admitted to hiding a letter from an ex-girlfriend so my boyfriend wouldn't get back with her. She said that hot girls were staring at my boyfriend at the grocery store. Johnny, those hot girls are looking at you. She's like, he's mine. She said she loves her former daughter-in-law who dated her other son, not my boyfriend, who raises her grandkids as a single mother, but doesn't trust her. But it's the girl who dated the other son, not her boyfriend, not OP's boyfriend. So I don't know that jealousy is an indication there, except to say like, I really liked this girl, implying not you, after that, which is garbage. The whole behind your back thing is shitty bullshit. And yeah, it sounds like, sounds like there might be some enmeshment going on there. I would be concerned, OP. I would be weirded out in your position. Tater Thunder, I need your help on this because how would you try to broach the conversation? How would you try to bring this up? How would you try to bring this up to your partner who was receiving this potentially too far attention?
Knowing what I know now, I wouldn't. I would break up with them. Because it's not going to get better. If he's not finding a fault with what she's doing at this level of yick, who am I to stop what's happening here? I'm getting the hell out and I'm not coming back.
Well,
that's just me.
And I'm sure that
she's 21.
I'm sure the attention that Opie's boyfriend is getting is very favorable for him. I'm sure he gets showered with gifts and all kinds of attention and love. And
no one can compete with that. If he's going to allow mom to take that role, then no partner can compete in that area. So let it be what it will be.
But if he doesn't know any different, because I guarantee you she's been like this his whole life, right? If he doesn't know any different, like how does someone who's in that position become aware that this is a problem? Because Opie, like, I think most of us would nope out right now, right?
Right.
But if you're going to nope out anyway, would you say, hey, the reason I'm noping out is because this is some really toxic, gross shit. And if you have a string of failed relationships, you need to know this is why.
Yes. There's an episode of Friends where Rachel, it's a brother and sister, not a mother and son, but Rachel says, like, they're really close, the brother and sister, and then they take a bath together, and she's like, nope, I'm out. But she brings it up and tells him that she has a problem with it, and he, like, is like, oh, this again, I know. And then the bath is where she draws the line and leaves. But yeah, she had some other posts. She's 21. The boyfriend, she's talked to him about this. He doesn't care. So I would be gone. There was 4 or 5 posts, and I would recommend that OP do work on herself so that she can recognize what's going on in this situation, and not repeat it again, because she is 21. That's really young. And so I would recommend that you spend time working on you, getting to know you, so that you can recognize signs when you know something's not right. Because this ain't right. This is icky.
Yeah, Lilith with the $2 super saying that is called emotional incest. Yeah, I would agree with that. And also, I mean, this thinking if he's been the recipient of this his entire life, like, do him a favor and let him know that this shit's fucked up.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, this is a grown ass man.
Yes, like, who should know better.
You figure it out on your own. I'm a 21-year-old girl. I don't need to tell you that this ain't right.
I'm not saying it's your responsibility, OP, but I'm saying if he's been raised like this, he doesn't know any better until he does. Something has to pull back the curtain on that for him to let him figure it out. And it could, for him, it could feel much less like some gross thing and feel more like she's living vicariously through him. Like she's building him up because she's trying to relive her glory days, and she's talking about the hot girls looking at him because she misses when hot guys used to look at her. You know what I mean? It's like it could feel like a vicarious thing much more than an enmeshment thing.
I love that you're looking at it from a optimistic point of view, but I don't think that's what's happening.
It's possible.
I think that she is being gross, and I think that she only loves the former daughter-in-law, who she doesn't trust, because she's a former daughter-in-law and because she has grandkids, and she wants access to those grandkids, and she has to play nice to get access to the grandkids. Otherwise, she's talking hot, steaming pile of shits about that woman behind her back. She does not seem trustworthy based on how she treated, like, the snowmobiling thing.
Yeah, you got it.
I did it.
You did it.
And so I think I just keep going back to her age. She's too young to deal with this.
Agreed.
She needs to be having fun, and this is not it.
This is a kind of problem that you at 21.
No, you don't need to fix this.
Right.
You need to let him know why you're leaving and leave.
And Megan's comment here, could it also just be in the company of others that she's like this? My mother will put us down in private, but act like this around others.
Very possible.
I'd say it would be if she hadn't gone behind OP's back and been like, oh, it was never too scary for me, Johnny.
I get a word.
My blue-eyed wonder boy could never go too fast or too reckless for me.
So, that's just so gross.
Hey there, it's Dusty with yet another story for you. This one is, am I the astronaut for apologizing to my mom on behalf of my wife so we could have a smooth family day meetup? My wife and I have been married for 1.5 years, and we have a 7-month-old toddler. We have gotten along with our respective in-laws really well and have never really had any issues. Last week, my wife and my mom had gotten into a verbal spat regarding not sending photos of our son to her. Apparently, my mother-in-law had forwarded some photos of a while back, and my mom was bothered that she hadn't received them. I wasn't there when the call happened and heard two very different sides of the story. According to my wife, my mom had said that it's her right as a grandmother to be kept in the loop and my wife's duty to do so. According to my mom, she said she just would like to be included and would also like to be sent photos if possible. We had a family day weekend, got cut short due to the weather, hangout planned with my sister and her family. My sister took my mom's side. We talked and it was clear she thought my wife was in the wrong. On Wednesday, I was talking to my mom. The whole argument got rehashed and it just slipped out from my mouth that my wife was really sorry about what she had said. I then pressed my mom to bury the hatchet too. My sister learned about it and was cool with it too. Timeout. It just happened to slip out of your mouth that you apologized on behalf of your wife who wasn't apologizing. And then, contrary to the whole that just slipped out comment, you doubled down and pressed your mom to bury the hatchet too, then cleared it with your sister as well. This was not a slip. You can't call that a slip if you're like, oh, what a convenient happenstance. Here's step 2 and step 3. Our get-together at my sister's went well and everyone was cordial. When we got back, my wife said she was pleasantly surprised at how welcoming my sister was, all things considered. She then asked me if I had said anything. I said I'd pressed everyone to get over it. She asked if I had apologized on her behalf. I said yes, that it slipped out, but I ran with it. Well, how would she just know that? She got extremely angry, said she regrets nothing, and now wants me to either make it clear that she's not sorry, or she won't be meeting my mom or sister anymore. I think now that everyone has gotten over it, what good could that do? I do get her point of view that she feels I shouldn't have spoken on her behalf, but I thought this was just I'm the one who actually ended up apologizing and everyone got past it. Am I the astronaut? Oh, dude. Okay. This is one of those cases where it's like, you did write these words, right? You wrote, I do get her point of view that she feels I shouldn't have spoken on her behalf. And then you're still like, but am I the asshole? Yeah, you are. I get wanting to smooth things over for the good of the realm so that you can have a peaceful outing. But that's a Band-Aid. That's morphine. That does not solve any problem here. If it's an actual miscommunication, informing your wife that you think it's a miscommunication and you think here's the other side of it and maybe they just need to talk and clear the air is one thing. Knowing that there are two different sides, that there's a miscommunication happening, and instead of facilitating the fixing of things, just going and pseudo-fixing things with your mommy and not telling your wife about it is a brozo move. Brozo move. Because first of all, you did this as an action of deceit called a lie. And if you were going to do this and fake apologize to one party, the fact that you chose to be deceitful to your wife to smooth things over with your mom makes it even worse. Do what? But whether what she was asking was absurd or not, the fact that he heard two different stories means that there's very likely a miscommunication there, and they have two different worldviews happening right now, and each is angry because their worldview is at an opposite extreme end. They're like, oh, my understanding was this. Oh, my understanding was this. Well, I'm so sorry. Like, okay, let's figure this out. Like, I'm sorry. I thought you were throwing weight around and saying that you deserved this shit, or that it was your right, and that's what I heard and that's what I felt. So that's why I wasn't ready to apologize. It could be that simple. It doesn't matter what it is, but instead of facilitating an actual solution here, you faked one and you chose to lie to your wife in the process, which means you chose preference of your mother instead of allegiance to the woman that you married. Problem. All you're doing now is compounding problems and making a much fucking bigger issue than was originally there. What was originally maybe just a miscommunication and a misunderstanding that could have easily been gotten over is now this fustercluck of like soap opera. What are you doing? Quit making things worse in the name of morphine. It's a brozo move. And I think it is an ass con too. It might be a 1. I'm gonna stick with 2. Because I think this is more brozo driven than anything, but it might be a 1. You definitely should not have done this. And the deceit involved is what makes me lean to 1. But No, this is, you're the asshole. You are. You are. If you want to fix things, think about an actual solution and not one that's a lie. How about that? Hey, Dusty Thunder here, and I wanted to thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that content, and if you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and most importantly, share. Also, you can find swag and so much more at dusty-thunder.com, and you'll find even more content on all of our platforms. We're on TikTok, YouTube. We now have an official Facebook page that we'll be posting stories to as well. We have podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and so much more. You can see all of our content platforms on Linktree, which is linked in my bio. Engage with us wherever you're enjoying content, and do your best to avoid the Askonauts today. Thanks again.